Good evening and welcome.
Divine Creator, we ask that the light of highest awareness fill the minds and hearts of those who are open to your light. We ask that they be assisted and strengthened in their resolve to achieve peace using peaceful means. May their minds, their hearts, and their actions reflect the divine will to good for all. Comfort, strengthen, and support those who are in a difficult situation in their mind, body, or spirit. Bring confidence to them that your divine hand is at work in their life. Amen.
Good evening. My name is Rev Mary Huber. I'm pastor of the Community Chapel of Holistic Healing, which is a non-denominational spiritual fellowship founded in 1977 by Reverend Michelle Luson, who is a mystic and channel for multidimensional consciousness. The Community Chapel for Holistic Healing, which is a division of the Community Center for Holistic Healing, is a non-denominational church that welcomes persons of all faiths and beliefs. CCWH, as we are known, offers individual expanded spiritual growth and development without dogma or prejudice to those who desire balance, peace, healing, and harmony, both in themselves and in the world. So we're here this evening for a particular topic, very important to me. But before we begin, we always start with our three affirmations of faith, hope, and charity, also known to us as three healers. I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine creator. In this reflection that is my physical embodiment, I have faith in the supreme guidance of my soul for my balance, my needs, and my opportunities. Outside of myself, there are also perfect images, and nothing can delude my thinking otherwise. Acknowledging my faith in the omnipresence of my divinity, I hope for realization, awareness, and acknowledgement of the existence of the great I am within myself. In understanding faith and knowing hope, I pledge my actions, my desires, and my thoughts to the performances of myself on the physical planes of the earth, to honor, to love, and to enlighten all that is a reflection of the divine outside myself, so that my perfection is imaged back to my creator. So help me God. Thank you. Well, this evening's topic to me is a very important one. And I am being prompted to remind everybody that it is more important than ever that we understand this. And while I acknowledge, right first, before I begin, that I am preaching to the choir, those who are here this evening online with me are well know this material, but we need to remind each other about the importance of it and so that we all stay on track. Now, this evening is about spiritual growth and our spiritual health. And there are many ways to assess this, how we're doing, and there are many ways to correct any imbalances. Now, much of that material will have to wait for another talk, but there are some areas that I'd like to cover this evening. So for those who will be listening in the future, I define spiritual health as being in alignment with your highest purposes and values. Human beings exist to demonstrate that a higher creative consciousness, we are, from spirit, can happen to, while in a physical vehicle, remain in balance with God's directions, to be in balance with God. So many times we have spoken here about the fact that we are indeed spirit inhabiting a physical form. We come in from higher dimensions to expand our awareness and finish some work we started in another lifetime's journey, sometimes many lifetimes journeys. For each, the specifics of why we're here are different. But the overall purpose for each of us is to align with our I am presence, our personal divine creator within. Those who are tuning in now will be are well aware of this and have been on a personal spiritual journey for a long time. Many, if not all, have attended ancient mystery schools in the past, which existed in all populated areas of the world, but only in select locations. The higher knowledge imparted was often through a monastery or an ashram, but not exclusively, because the indigenous people everywhere, all over the planet, were very much in tune with the elements of nature and the God presence within each person and all of nature. So in those ashrams and monasteries and other places, the basic spiritual laws of the universe were taught and practiced. There were spiritual disciplines to adhere to and ceremonial or ritual observances to keep. The great devotion to the spiritual journey was evident. And even now, when you visit such an institution that still exists, primarily in the Eastern world, I think, some in the West, not many, mostly in monasteries in the West, this movement actually began in India, ancient India. Their teaching has always been that life is really what they call Maya, an illusion. And they developed their practices around seeing beyond, seeing through all of that. I bring that up because I think it's important that that's where we need to go as well. So the great spiritual beings entered the human family from time to time throughout humanity's existence to instruct and foster a deeper understanding down through the ages, and to keep us kind of our head above the mire and muck and keep us looking up. Now, one spiritual law which governs this universe is heard in the statement, as above, so below. Now, this phrase struck me the other day when I was looking at some news clips. And modern science has now found that cells that are not ours, found in the female body, are present. I sent that clip to a number of people in the field of fetal microchimerism. I think it's microchimerism and maternal health. That's the field. It was discovered that moms carry in their bodies fetal cells from every pregnancy, and they're there permanently. Cells of the child in the fetal stage lodge themselves in a number of body tissues, especially in the heart. Now, that was such a delight to, I think, everybody who has studied metaphysics to hear that, because as above, so below, we have found that the confirmation that of what we know that exists on higher planes. We are all one in spirit, and it just looks like we're many when we enter the earth as individual bodies of expression. but we're all connected in the heart of God. We are just offshoots from a great column of divine love. We exist within the heart of each other. We relate to all of humanity that way, and especially when we're in alignment with our higher design and our own God within. This is why we are so concerned in today's chaotic world for the safety and survival of others. You can't help but because they are part of us. And this is important that we read. This light group and all light groups, that's their job, is to remember that and to really be that body of light that will help bring about the new world of the future where there is peace and harmony. So in this group, you will have recognized all of that and have been already prompted by your inner self to awaken to the universal truths of your divine existence and your presence within. And when we do that, we are then help humanity wherever we are. So you are aware that your inner world contains all that one needs to deal with the earthly sojourn. But we have to be in alignment or attunement with that so that we can access that. And we ourselves need to do that first. We cannot help another if we cannot help ourselves. So it's funny because that's even true on the physical level. You can't, if you're ailing and you're ill, you cannot be out there helping somebody else get well because your body won't support that. The heart is the center of your alignment. The heart is where the silver cord connects from your divine source. And it is where we go for our truth. And so this life's experience in spiritual awakening was no doubt accomplished by you largely through the practice of meditation. Most people are taught to pray earlier in their lives through some church or from a family who's a prayerful family who's in tune with that. But not many are taught at that time to meditate. And I know how important, I do know how important prayer is. And it is defined as a supplication or an asking request. And meditation is active listening for some evidence, whether it's maybe sight or sound or anything else that presents itself in meditation, of God's presence. We are looking for that. Meditation is not done to get anything. True meditation is simply the joy of the connection, period. Now, if you and I and everyone could truly believe that God is present in our life, that God loves us and wants the best for us, we would all, and we do all, as far as I can see, put our faith firmly there. And it's important that the world learns that. This is why we don't meditate to get, we meditate to really just be. God knows your prayers and your actual needs in addition to your wants. And we've been often told that God gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want, because God evaluates our wants in our, relative to our highest interest. And wants, anyway, usually come from the lower ego. And many wants, as we are praying very sincerely and fervently, we'll be reflecting because we don't quite believe that God is there, is going to get us to the right place. So it's a really an interesting dance that we do, but it's important that we do this. God understands within us, and our human state is taken into consideration here. Because we're living in the age of the changes in this time, this inner attunement is more important than ever. Now, these really are the end days spoken of in the Bible. You know, one of the hallmarks of this current time, and as it said in the Bible, there will be many false prophets arising who will try to trick you into believing that the old order is just fine, that the blatant flaws and downright evil that exist are okay. This confusion of hearing so many things has been pressuring people who have maybe not have given that time for inner reflection yet. So, and that's why many people in today's world say they don't know what to believe today anymore. They just don't know what to do. And that's the reason that connecting within self to the heart of God will save us. You can know the truth, but you also have to put forth some effort in doing the discipline and keeping your prayers flowing for a guidance from your angelic partners. And we do all have guarding angels with us at all times. It's interesting to observe that meditation is the oldest tool given to mankind to reconnect with the divine. Now, I'm going to speculate that as it was given to us, that early humans who had lived in perfect harmony with the higher planes, with God, which is known as the Garden of Eden, when they began to turn away from that perfect alignment and begin to satisfy just their lower urges and delving into that more of the animal nature of themselves for their insight into what the world was about, they gradually got cut off from their perfect alignment with God and the interaction, the interchange with God. So I would assume that began before Atlantis. It began in Lemuria. And I'm assuming from that that's where meditation began as a discipline. What are the benefits of finding the truth within? Well, one thing that I can think of right away is the ability to think for yourself and follow your own measures of goodness as you have them defined in your highest values and highest standards. You can figure out your outer world and sort out things and people as being then desirable or not. Is this information good or it's not? You have the measure within you, and it's important that people begin to do that inner searching for that reason. There are too many people just following without thinking, just being directed and herded through whatever the government or the company or whatever's being promoted, just herding us in a direction with a seeming great knowledge and authority, but it's really not for our own interest. It's for a very different interest, and usually for their own interest. This has created a world of confusion and anger, because even though people haven't gone within, there's a knowing within the human being. There cannot be, every human being knows that there is a goodness There's expectation of something finer to be present, and isn't showing up. And I think that's where there's a lot of anger and confusion. So that worldwide turmoil is really the upending of every flawed system everywhere. Fear is an underlying factor because of this. We're seeing all of that happening without being identifying why it's happening or what's going on behind the scenes, unless you are tapped in, tuned in to a higher dimension that sees that these things have always been meant to go. They were never meant to even be in the world in the first place in the way they are in the world. The decision-making process was very flawed at that point, and people took a wrong road. And we're getting rid of that road and bringing in only that which is, again, connected to God, to the higher forces, and we will begin to move in the direction where people, again, in the future, will be walking with God on this planet. Now, that is a discovery for humanity that will have to be developed through some work and a jettisoning of all of the behaviors that are in the way of that. Now, it's interesting to note that anger, by the way, is also a cover for fear. So fear and anger go hand in hand. And as I understand it, anger itself is not an evil thing. It is a normal human reaction with the emphasis on the human. This emotion is a signal that sometimes is that something is amiss and that some boundary has been violated. That is our own good sentry doing its job, marching around the perimeter of our world and saying, these are my boundaries, and I'm going to do the job of monitoring it. Now, that comes from Dr. Karen McLaren, and she explains that very beautifully in her work. It is what we do next after the anger comes up that makes a difference. What do we do with the anger energy? If it is turned into a positive problem solving and taking that action, it has been a good servant. However, destructive behaviors using that energy are particularly devastating. Not only harms other human beings, it creates a downward spiral within that individual, leading into more negativity. It's a drastic step away from God. Now, I very much follow brain research, and I think that is an amazing discovery in a physical form of what's really going on above, as above, so below. So the brain's research has shown us that habitual patterns of thinking create strong neural pathways and neural linking. And it's either, whether it's a constructive or destructive, but the destructive thinking that takes a very strong root and continues to take that root actually has a physiology showing up in the brain pattern when you take a look at it. And so that the brain is actually affected by negative entrenched thinking. The brain did not originate and does not originate the anger. But when the brain is damaged, it continues to spew out the anger until something is done to correct it. So that our bad thinking and bad behavior really needs as much today as they know really would benefit from doing a work with the people who do this neuroscience work, especially, of course, I'm very much a fan of Dr. Amen and all of his books. His work on anger divides angry individuals into three categories: the impulsive, the compulsive, and the intermittent explosive, or the rage people. And there are three different levels of anger, actually, and the way they express themselves. So he sees the patterns in the brain when he does his brain SPECT. He calls them the SPECT scans. It's a sort of a functional MRI kind of, or CT, not sure which one he uses. And it shows you how the brain is working when you're actually working your brain. And he sees the difference in the areas of the brain being used by each type. Impulsive anger is seen as a low frontal lobe function. They don't see much activity there. There's no a lot of good brain circulation to that area. It looks like there's a big hole there. And this is where impulse control is, and the executive functions. They quickly anger. They flare right up, and it comes right out of them because it's right there in that particular part of the brain. That's where it is being seen. The compulsive anger shows up in deep frontal lobe, not in the same front part of the frontal lobe the other one is in. Very specifically there. These people have to act. They don't have it's not like the impulsive that just falls out. These have to act on things. I mean, they have it's very ingrained in them. And there are people who tend to be stubborn and hold grudges for a very long time. The intermittent explosive type have had a deep emotional wound somewhere along the line that shows up in the amygdala, in the center of the brain that has the emotional component to it. Each type responds to different treatments, which he outlines in his book. The impulsive respond, believe it or not, to high protein, low carbohydrate diets. And by the way, if you gave the same diet to the compulsive, they would get angrier and more entrenched. They don't do well on that diet. The compulsive respond to saffron and things that have that same connotation, or I guess arrangement of there are other food groups, but the saffron is the most important one that really helps that type of person. And the last type, the one who goes into rages, is helped by GABA, G-A-B-A, that supplement particularly. You can't interchange these solutions. They are specifically for those particular part of the brain. So you can check these out in the Amen Clinic on YouTube. He has a lot of YouTube explanations about his work. And I think you find this really, really helpful for some, especially in people in your environment who you wonder, how are they going to get out of this? I think there are some good solutions here that could be done, because they may not respond to other things. I think Spirit has given us many ways to solve our problems so that we can put them to rest, that we can overcome, that we can transform. And definitely, Dr. Amen sees these, and he has these solutions that are put out, and each pattern has its own solution to it. And it's just quite varied. And he has 35,000 or so scans and people who have been helped. So he can speak with that authority. Now, spiritually, anyone with anger issues can begin first there. If you can't go to the doctor, don't want to go there, you can begin by recognizing that anger is there, and then take a break. This is what Dr. McLaren said, and this is what Dr. Amos said, basically the same thing. You step back, take a break, deliberately taking 10 deep breaths. this would be equivalent to the old adage, you know, when you get angry, count to 10 first before you respond. And because the deep breathing here, rather than the counting, the deep breathing helps supply more blood to the brain so that there can be possibly some better thinking going on, with a solution coming out rather than a reaction coming out that would be dangerous or detrimental to the relationship. So the breath should really be deep and slow, because if somebody otherwise did these really, very rapidly, deeply, they could become a fire-breathing dragon with the fast breathing. So you want to have this more like that happening. So that's something that we as individuals can help another person if we see them getting into that position where, if they will listen, slowly bring them back, let them know that they have they can control and come out better than they went into this with. So the anger pathways in the brain take energy and blood flow away from other areas of the brain. I mean, it's amazing what these brains look like when they are so afflicted. They just have no energy going there, no blood flow going there. So the behaviors need to be modified. And that pattern of anger I focus on because there's so much destruction and violence as a result of unchecked behaviors. Reason goes out the window. Now, regarding personal control and insights, you need to regain them. I mean, these things must be regained in order to be put everything in order in your day. So getting to understand who you really are is a really good place to start. Once someone tunes into the spiritual side of themselves, the world can begin to look a bit brighter, and assurances of the support that spirit gives. It goes a long way in handling our daily lives if this can be achieved. Imagery that often accompanies meditation can be a source of upliftment and a potential for rebuilding the self-image that becomes damaged along the way. Unhealthy behaviors, either physical or emotionally based, are often stimulated by a distorted self-perception, bad feelings about themselves. When you begin to take the positive side and begin to image beautiful scenes and speak with respect about yourself and to yourself, that's very important. It would be a place to start. Self-talk that is encouraging during this time that we're trying to make changes are very important to keep rallying ourselves within, because we have to do the work ourselves. We can help each other to a point, but the individual must pick up the load and go on their own, because we've been helping them find out how to do it. Now they know how, they have to actually go ahead and do it. And this will begin to help the whole function of the brain, which is the major switchboard for all of the body. It will begin to develop better brain wiring and a better function of the body itself. So the best advice would be to develop a habit of doing a spiritual exercise, and at the same time or simultaneously develop a physical intervention to help with any symptoms developed through bad habits and behaviors. So you want to have, something from column A and something from column B. You do them at the same time. That is the most effective. Sequential, doing things sequentially doesn't necessarily catch up with each other. We can change always. We can always make progress. when the God within us is consulted in all decision making. We make bad choices because it's habit, it's out of anger, it's out of fear, it's out of something. But when we check in with God and ask God for that, what is it? What do we need here? You will have the answer that is able to come in then, because you're lining up and waiting for that answer to come from God. Now, Dr. Amen has recommended that you can go to brainassessment.com for more information. And while you're there, you might find a test to take to see how you stack up. I went there. It's not easy to find. I don't know that I even found it at some point, but I think if you continuously look at it, it's, I think through I didn't get through everything in there. You might find it there. But I know that Dr. Amen has a brain test that he has put in some of his books, so he might be able to find it online. I also highly recommend Dr. Karen McLaren's work, and you can find a fine program of hers on Sounds True website. It's time that we recognize that we exist on multiple dimensions. We need to have more people understand that. And we exist on them simultaneously. We don't go there sequentially. By addressing issues from both the higher perspective and the lower one, this will give better results. And you find that true healing and balance cannot be achieved otherwise. So that's one side of it. The most important activity today is to encourage as much positive thinking as we can, not only in ourselves, but around us. Correct people when they are saying, gee, I was exposed to this virus and, now I can, I wonder how long it's going to be before I get sick. I have to get these things done. I'm probably going to come down with this. I hear that. And I have to constantly correct people to say, you cannot sit there and expect that it's probably going to happen, because guess what? But that's about everything. But that's the most common thing that I hear. Since you and I get what we expect, it would be wise to think an image more positive thinking. You don't have to accept these things coming in. Again, thinking for ourselves, trusting God, trust ourselves when we are trusting God, because God's coming through us. When we're engaged in the outer world, true reality comes through us, and it gives us back our answers, our encouragement, and will lead us into a future based on love and understanding and truth and kindness and all that the Christ within has to offer. We send out light to the United States every Saturday morning in our intuitive development workshop. And finding truth and trust can only come by the inner journey to Christ, who is the healer, teacher, priest, counselor, security, and protection in the world. More people in this country need to tune into that. We need to have more unity, harmony, understanding that is on a much higher shelf than we've been pulling from. There are many beings of light aiding us, even in the midst of the most mundane activities in our life, all the time. So try to see and teach that you yourself are also a being of light. After all, the first commandment of the new transformed world is be the light. So I guess my final word to anyone is to stop listening to the world outside of self and begin to listen and pay attention to the great being of light that exists within yourself. And you will find that you have extraordinary common sense, and connect on it. Thank you very much for being here this evening, and we would like to go on now to our meditation. I have found that the older practice of doing progressive relaxation is very helpful. And I will ask you to relax now, and wherever you are, but do support your back, support your neck and your head. Really get comfortable and be in a nice alignment so that your spine is straight, regardless if you're lying down or you're sitting seated or semi-reclining. And this is an important journey for all of us. And we begin again with the deep breathing. We take a breath and think that there is wonderful fresh air coming into our brain with this breathe, the in-breath. It's clear, it's fresh. Bring it into the brain, see it going in there, and then blow out anything that's unfresh, that's sullied, that's distorted, that's dirty, that's beneath. Just keep those deep breaths in with the image that when you breathe in, it somehow is filling your brain and then your lungs and your heart with such wonderful fresh energy. And you expel it into the earth. Allow this breathing to bring in now freshness, the freshness of the prana of the universe, the prana that exists from the highest source of our creation in the universe. It comes to us on light, and it enlivens us. It energizes the air we breathe. The prana is entering the expression of God coming from very high. And it exists only as light and has the energy of great light coming in. And it begins now to relax, relaxing your feet and your legs. Can you see the light energy there? See, it's filled with light. It's glowing. It's shining through the skin. It's so bright. And it travels and it's filling up from below. It fills your pelvis. And every breath, it rises higher in your body and lights up your body in those different areas. It's on your chest, in your abdomen, it's up your spine. It's running down your arms, the light exiting your fingers. You're just glowing. And now it's entering your neck and shoulders. And it's going up like a great hood over your back of your head down and winding up tucked in front under the chin. And you drop your chin slightly, filled with light. Imagine that you can see this. Be the light. Be that brilliant light that you are. And now it's shining through. And as you have allowed the light from the Creator God to come through you, you have lit up your world. You are now magnetically attracting those around you in spirit who are of a very fine and high vibration. They're coming closer to you. See them coming in to embrace you, to add to your joy, to add to anything that you need, they are bringing. And if you have it already, they're giving you more and more light, more and more love, more and more comfort. And now you know that this light has pushed away from you all that has been of lower nature, that has kept you away from the highest level of yourself. You are filled now, your aura is brilliant, sparkling energy all around you. It is important in the scheme of things to begin to see that you can bring that back into your mind very quickly in your day-to-day world. And you can have that instant attachment and association with your meditation, with that being of light that you are. Bring it always with you. Bring that imagination of that image of yourself. Can you stand in front of a mirror and see yourself? Can you see the glow? Now, can you look at others and see there is that light within them? Your world is filled with beings of light. Acknowledge the positive in them. Beam the positive to them. Ask that the I am presence now in that individual or that group allows the flooding of energies of light through and through, so that they can now release some of the things that are keeping them back. You are an agent of light, an angel of light. When you're in that condition, we need to possess this understanding and have it as a firm belief. We need to be able to somehow, in our own world, project that out to others, that they can believe in the light, believe in God's presence in their life, believe that with their alignment with God will come their highest solutions, that they can stay elevated. They can stay with the Christ within. We all want to remain at that fifth dimensional level. We must remain there, and we must help each other stay there. And with the greatest love and positive thinking that we can do to project it, to help that individual, it can be received by them. Ask their I am presence to show it to them. We have a lot of energy work to do. We have a lot of, I guess, expression of ourselves in the light, that we are now models for the world. And this is not a small accomplishment. You are a divine being inhabiting a physical form. We have had issues, but they're put aside now. They're put down. I understand that when Jesus was accomplishing his work as becoming the Christ, all had to be put away. He had to jettison anything that was at all less than light and rise above it and never reclaim the lower end of anything. And this, from the masters, is what has to happen in order to achieve mastership. You cannot believe, imbibe, or participate in anything lower than the Christ consciousness. See it now. See it working. See your energies expanding. The breath that you take is sacred. The ground you walk on is sacred because your spirit is here. See it as clearly as you can. Bring it into your heart. Take it to your heart and keep it there. Tap into that understanding as often as possible. In our meditations, it really would do well to go first to the heart. Do the work that we feel we want to do, and then before we return to the physical, return to the heart. The heart always knows what is right and what is true. Expanding the heart. Expanding. And it does happen. As you see it, it is so. I want you to take this expanded heart energy now. It's in your world. Bring that image of your brilliant, shining self to mind periodically. And know that when you are there, you are surrounded very closely by those in spirit who are there with you. They enter your aura with no help on anybody else's part. They are there. So when you're ready now, you might begin to bring yourself back. Bring yourself back to a heart place in your heart. Whatever you perceive as your heart, be it a chamber, temple, a church, an outdoor spot, whatever your heart has told you which should image, bring yourself back there. I always feel there is an altar there. I always kneel at my altar there and thank God for this experience and this close walk. And bring yourself then, getting up to your feet and bringing yourself on a path that brings you back to the room you're in, to the seat that you are occupying, back into your physical form, remembering that this experience is always there, that is refreshed you, nourished you, and even to some measure healed you. So as you come back, you feel good and ready for the rest of the evening, and certainly for the rest of the week. When you're ready, open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I hope you will go to our website. There we have a button, PayPal, and we're hoping that you will share, give us a donation if you can, of any amount. We greatly appreciate it. Keeps us, all our expenses in check, and we certainly can build for the future with your support. When we do appreciate all the support you do give us and your presence at our various activities that we have. You'll also find those activities on our website, and we hope you will join us on Tuesday evening, Thursday evening, and Saturday, and then the periodic chapel services. And I hope you will always go there to see what new things might be appearing. CCWH.com. Thank you so much, and we'll end with our Let There Be Peace on Earth.